If your mind was constantly producing absolute pleasantness for you, would you think how to stop this mind? No, it's producing a lot of unpleasantness. That's why you're thinking of how to stop the mind.
It's just mental diarrhea.
That mental diarrhea isn't just an exhausting metaphor, it's a literal metabolic crisis happening inside your brain right now. When you overthink, your brain burns through its energy reserves at an unsustainable rate, leaving you physically drained and constantly tired. In this video, we are combining Sadhguru's ancient wisdom on mental clarity with the latest breakthroughs in neuroscience. Let's first look at the root cause.
People are sleeping 8 hours, 10 hours a day, not because they're working so much or their body is in such a bad state, just mental diarrhea. If you stop the mental diarrhea, there's enough energy to make this very, very intense.
Sadhguru is hitting on a massive biological truth here. Your overthinking is actively bankrupting your body's energy reserves. Your brain accounts for a mere 2% of your total body weight, yet it ruthlessly consumes roughly 20% of your body's daily energy. When you are focused on a task, your brain runs efficiently. But the moment you slip into rumination, worry, or social anxiety, a specific web of interconnected brain regions fires up. Neuroscientists call this the default mode network. The default mode network is essentially your brain's idle mode. It kicks in when you are daydreaming or replaying past mistakes. Here's the problem. When you experience mental diarrhea, the default mode network goes into an aggressive state of hyperdrive. It begins burning through glucose and oxygen at an unsustainable pace. This severe metabolic drain creates a massive energy deficit. It's the exact reason why a day spent entirely in your own head doing nothing leaves you feeling completely shattered physically, forcing your system to demand 8 to 10 hours of sleep just to recover from the exhaustion of your own thoughts.
Now, how do I stop mental diarrhea? If you have diarrhea, physical diarrhea, what is the first thing to do? Stay away from food for some time. You eat bad food and then try to stop diarrhea, it's not going to work. So similarly, bad food for the mind is just this. You have gotten identified with things that you are not. The moment you get identified with things that you are not, mental diarrhea is inevitable. It's bad food for the mind. Now it will run endlessly, do what you want. You do any damn meditation, you say Shiva, Rama, it's not going to stop.
Sadhguru's concept of bad food perfectly maps onto a dangerous psychological and neurological issue known as cognitive fusion. This is a state where your brain loses the ability to distinguish between a subjective mental concept and objective physical reality. When you consume this bad food and identify deeply with a transient thought like "I am a failure," your brain's emotional command center, the amygdala, reacts instantly. That's where the problem starts. To your survival networks, an abstract thought like "I am a failure" triggers the exact same biological panic as a predator leaping out of the dark, because the amygdala cannot tell the difference between a real physical threat and an imaginary psychological one. That's why your system is flooded with survival neurochemicals like cortisol and adrenaline. But because the threat is not real, your system enters an infinite, agonizing loop. Your mind runs endlessly, because it is trying to escape its own architecture. That's why Sadhguru says, no amount of forced chanting or forced meditation can override a brain that genuinely believes it is fighting for its life.
If you disidentify with everything, if you understand what is you and what is not you, if you keep a little distance from that, mind will become still. If you want, you can use it, otherwise you can keep it.
Once there is a space between you and the mind, what the mind is doing is not even an issue. Mind is not a problem. Mind is a miracle. It is not a problem.
This distance, Sadhguru describes, is known as cognitive diffusion. Creating this space almost instantly alters your brain activity. When you switch from being an active participant in your thoughts to an observer of those thoughts, you trigger a massive neural migration. Think of it this way. When you are trapped in overthinking, the panic button in your brain, the amygdala, is hogging all the power. But the moment you step back and just watch your thoughts instead of believing them, you instantly flip a switch. You pull the power away from that panic button and send it straight to your prefrontal cortex, which is basically the calm, logical CEO of your brain. By becoming the observer, you are effectively pulling away from the drama. Now just notice what you have just done here. You have created a distance, the same distance that Sadhguru is talking about. This is the exact neurological mechanism of mindfulness. And here's the best part. Once you open up this neural space, your mind ceases to be a constant nuisance and returns to its true biological design, a brilliant, high-performance miracle of an instrument that you can pick up when you need it and completely put down when you don't. The action plan, how to start creating the distance. So how do you actually start doing this in your daily life? How do you starve the mental diarrhea? Here are 2 simple steps you can use right now. Step 1, shift your language. The next time an intrusive or stressful thought pops into your head, do not say, "I am stressed" or "I am failing." That is the bad food that locks your brain into panic mode. Instead, pause and mentally rephrase it to, "I notice that I am having the thought that I am stressed." It sounds incredibly simple. Perhaps you might not even believe that it works. But by changing just those few words, you instantly break the identification. You force your brain to step back, deactivate the amygdala, and view the thought as an outside object rather than a literal survival threat. In other words, you create the space. Step 2, drop into your senses for 10 seconds. As Sadhguru pointed out, you cannot stop the mind by fighting it or chanting over it. You stop it by shifting your focus entirely. When your mind starts spinning out of control, pull all your attention into a physical sensation for just 10 seconds. Feel the weight of your feet flat on the floor. Listen closely to the farthest sound in the room. Focus intensely on the physical sensation of your breath moving in and out of your nose. Neurologically, this shifts your brain's power away from the overthinking network and forces it into the areas that process real-time sensory data. This is when you break the loop, because you cannot physically overthink and deeply feel a physical sensation at the exact same time. Instead of trying to force your mind to be quiet, start treating your thoughts as passing traffic. Step back onto the sidewalk and watch how quickly the chaos settles down.